All right, we're here. We're live. It is Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Again, I'm here every week for you guys to answer questions live. I want you to be here. I want you to log in live and ask questions of me. I answer questions for investors a lot, and usually it's a paid service. I do it inside of the Seven Figure Flipping Mastermind. I have some coaching products that I offer that are paid. The only place that I answer questions where it's completely no obligation to you is here on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and 4 p.m. Pacific. You can log on, ask me anything about real estate you want. We will have the conversation. If you ask me live, if you're here when I'm recording, then we can have a back and forth, which is kind of cool. It works out really nice when there's back and forth. And because sometimes I follow up questions, right? Somebody asks a question and they leave something out that I would need to know to answer it 100%, completely. And if you're here live, you can get that answer 100% complete. Otherwise, I'm going to give you my best shot at giving you my answer. So you can email me questions if you want. You can DM me. You can do whatever you want to do to get the question to me. You can email me, frankly, if you want, at mike@juststartrealestate.com, and we will get those questions. We'll get them incorporated into the show, and we'll get you guys off and running there. But if you're live, like I said, I can answer them in real time, which is really, really nice. And it makes it a little bit better for everybody. And so I can just answer them more completely. So if you go to Mike at Just Start Real Estate, I'll put it on the screen here. That's where you send your questions for me or anything else if you want to communicate. That's where you do it. Okay. I want to make sure that anybody who's new to this live or is listening to this replay on my podcast and you have not heard, I have developed a free video course for you. And it's all around getting leads, getting better leads, getting cheaper leads, getting more motivated leads. And in the market that we're moving into, right, we're in this recession, and there's a lot of speculation about what that means, not only economically for the country or as far as your spending goes, and how far your dollar's going to go, and all this stuff. We have interest rates that are on the rise for homes, but also there's a question about home values and what does that mean for us as real estate investors as we're buying properties and we're talking to homeowners, and are homeowners going to be less likely to sell because their house is going down in value, and they remember just 3 or 4 months ago their house was at an all-time high value. It was just historically high house prices about 4 or 5 months ago, and now we're going into an area where house prices are going down. And so talking to sellers, finding really truly motivated sellers is going to be a challenge potentially. And you need all the help you can get when it comes to getting leads for your business, because I always say leads in your business are like oxygen for the body, right? If you don't have oxygen going into your body, you will die. And if you don't have leads going into your business will die. It will fail. You can't run a real estate investing company without reliable leads, good quality leads. And for me, I have found over the past 7 or 8 years, the most high quality, consistent, cost effective, reliable lead source has been direct mail. And I have spent literally over $1 million trying to dial in and perfect and understand how to make direct mail work for me and my company. And like I said, I've spent that $1 million and I've learned a lot, and I've really come up with a video course that encapsulates everything, all the things I know that I did to be successful in direct mail. And you can grab your free copy of that video course if you go to my website, mikesimmons.com/winning direct mail. It's on the screen right now if you need that. But it's mikesimmons.com/winning direct mail. You can also, if you want, just go to winningdirectmail.com and you can grab that video course. I'm considering making that a paid course in the future. Right now, it's free. So grab it now before it becomes a paid course. If I decide to go that route, I'm not saying I will for sure, but honestly, that it's worth a lot, in my opinion. I put a lot of time and effort, energy to make that course really, really great. I've gotten a ton of great feedback from people who have gotten in there and utilized that material. And I think, in real estate, if you can get another deal a month, even another handful of deals a year, like what is that worth? It's worth certainly in the tens of thousands. And depending on how you, where you live and how much your average profit is, it could be in the hundreds of thousands, right? Some people do over $1 million doing 10 deals a year. So what is this course worth to help you get those extra one deal a month, maybe 6 to 10 deals a year? I don't know. I would say it's worth tens of thousands, if not a couple of thousand, right? For sure. It has to be. And right now it's free. So go grab it while it is free and take advantage of my lapse in judgment of making it free for the moment. Okay, let's dive into today's questions and we'll see how this goes. If we end up a little early today, I think that'll be fine. We'll see. Okay, first question is let's see, let me put it up on the screen here. I want to understand the process of analyzing deals and understanding the market as a new wholesaler. What does this mean exactly, and how can I put them into practice? So, understanding the market is really at a high level, especially for a beginner. If you're just trying to get like the 80/20 effect here, because you can be as much of a data nerd as you want to be, and you can dig deep into the data and really start trying to look for trends and pulling out nuggets that will help you give you an edge over your competition. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm using data nerd in a as a term of endearment. I'm not saying it as a negative, but you can get as deep into the data as you want, but at a very high level, right? The 80/20 effect is you don't have to know all the trends and be able to quote exact days on market as of today. Like, that's good information, but it's not, to me, it's not vital information. What's vital is that if you're in an ascending market, descending market, a flat market, like those kind of like high level metrics or high level data, you really should know. So you never want to be in a position where you go into a seller's home and you say, Mr. Mrs. Seller, house prices are going down. And they pull up the paper and it says house prices are going up, right? You don't want to be so far out of touch with the market that you truly don't know if we're in a buyer's market, a seller's market, a flat market, what's happening, right? So knowing where we are in the market cycle is important. And I look at the market cycle as kind of like this roller coaster, right? On one side of the hill, you're in a buyer's market, and then it kind of flattens out on top for a minute, and then you're in a seller's market, and then it kind of flattens out, then you're in a buyer's market. That's kind of how it goes. So you want to know which one of those markets you're in. So when you're talking to homeowners, talking to potential sellers, talking to motivated sellers, you know what exactly is happening. So you can say to them, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, yes, I know that your neighbor sold their house for, 500,000 6 months ago. But 6 months ago, we were at the top of the market. We are in a declining market. Your house is losing value every single month. And 6 months ago, yes, your house might have been worth close to 500,000. But for the record, your neighbor's house was fully renovated: new kitchen, new bath, new flooring, new paint, new roof, new furnace, new windows. They had all that, right? Yours is, it's not all new. It's a little bit dated. Your bathroom and kitchen was updated in the 90s, and your roof is at the end of its life. And it's different, right? But you would have been closer to that. But now we're in a descending market. So your house is worth not only less than 500,000 like your neighbor 6 months ago, but even your neighbor's house 6 months ago was worth 500,000. Even your neighbor's house, like today, if they were trying to sell it, maybe it's only worth 450. Maybe it's only worth 465, right? Maybe it's going to be worth a little bit less because all house prices are going down. And so your house 6 months ago might not have been worth 600. Maybe it would have been worth 450 6 months ago, but your house now, 6 months have gone by. Maybe it's only worth 400, right? Fully renovated on the market. And so you have to understand what you're saying to the sellers when you get in the home, and knowing the market is really, really key to that. You don't have to know all the levers and all the data, but you need to know what market you're in. As far as analyzing the deal, people use different things. New wholesalers or house flippers will sometimes use that whole, 70% of Zillow minus repairs minus your profit kind of a thing. You can always try to start there. 70% might be a little bit tough, even though house prices are starting to come down. That's probably, in most places, 70% is going to be a little too aggressive. You probably are going to be at like 75 or 80 minus repairs minus your profits. And so you want to do, for a wholesaler, it would be 70% of repairs. I'm sorry, 70% of Zillow minus repairs minus the house flipper's profit minus your profit, right? Because you're a wholesaler. You have to add that extra layer in there. And that's how people do it when they're starting off sometimes. And I get that. I don't really use that method because I don't think that it really works super well in the long term. It's good when you're starting out, maybe to sort of get you in the ballpark. And as a wholesaler, just let's make this kind of a side note here. As a wholesaler, when you buy a property, you should you should have this relationship with the seller, and you should be creating rapport and building in the expectation that you are going to sign a purchase agreement with their property, but you should have a 1 or 2 week due diligence period if you can negotiate it in. Now, if you're in a highly competitive environment with multiple bids, you may not be able to get that, right? So you may have to dial your numbers in a little bit better. But in a lot of cases, you can work in this 2 week due diligence period. So even if you get it under contract at the wrong price, you'll find out as soon as you put it out to your buyers, you're going to find out that it's the wrong price because you're either going to get no offers from your buyers, or kind of a good problem to have, you're going to get tons of offers from your buyers because you put it out to your buyers list too low. But that means you probably signed the contract really, really low also. So that's a good thing, right? But when you start becoming a little bit more sophisticated, you're going to start dialing in your property analyzing tool a little bit more. And so mine looks something like this. I've put it into a spreadsheet, but this is basically what's behind the spreadsheet. It's not incredibly complicated, but it's just a little bit more complicated than, Zillow, 70% of Zillow minus repairs. So what mine looks like is I come up with the ARV first, right? And it's important that we make this note. ARV is not a CMA. It's not like a market analysis like a realtor does. It's after repair value. So the repair part of that is critical. We're only looking at houses, and we're only comparing to houses that have been fully renovated like we are going to do to that house, or like we expect our buyers are going to do to that house. So if you look at a house and it's like, hey, you look at the fully renovated ones and the ones that are kind of beat up and outdated, and all of those combined give you an ARV of 250,000, that's inaccurate for us as investors. We need to take out all the beat up ones, all the dated ones, all the foreclosures, and we need to only look at the houses that look like they were flipped, or at the very least, very, very recently fully renovated. And you'll probably find if a CMA gives you a value of 250, an ARV value will probably be closer to 300 in that scenario, right? We're just looking at the best of the best. And so that's what we want to do. So I get the ARV, I subtract repairs, I subtract the closing costs when I buy, and I usually put that at about 1%. Then I subtract the closing costs when my buyer sells, okay? And I usually put that at about 2% of the sales price. Then we subtract realtor fees, and I subtract 6% so that we're accounting for the realtor fees once this house sells on the retail market, like if a flipper buys it. Then I subtract the cost of money, right? And we have to estimate the whole time for the cost of money. So if you're paying, let's just say you're paying 12% for your money and you're going to hold it for 5 months, that's 5%, right? We have to account for how long we're going to hold on to that property and how long we need that money. And then I subtract insurance. Then I subtract estimated utilities like electric, gas, water, garbage, that kind of thing. Then I subtract out my buyer's anticipated profit margin. And then I have to subtract, as a wholesaler, I subtract my wholesale fee, and that gives me my max offer. Okay. So that's how I figure it out as a little bit more of an experienced investor. And there's models out there that are probably even more complicated, but I think there's a point of diminishing returns. You can dial it in granularly, but there's still variables you can't 100% control. And so this is as detailed as I think you need to get without leaving anything on the table or being a little bit too negligent with your numbers, right? So that's what I consider to be kind of an optimized way of analyzing properties. So that's how I do it. Um, like I said, I can break down any of those if you want. If somebody has questions, you can ask me or just DM me or whatever, and I can break that down. But that's kind of what it is. And I'll do it again without all the explanation, just so you have like the bullet point. It's ARV minus renovation, minus closing costs when you buy, minus closing costs when you sell, minus realtor fees, minus cost of money, minus insurance, minus utilities, minus your buyer's profit or the flipper's profit, minus the wholesale fee gives you the max offer. Okay. So that's how I look at it. All right. Good question. Next question. Have you ever done a flip after a fire? Do you have any pointers? I have done a flip after. I think I've done one. I've sold a lot of houses that were flipped after a fire, but I don't do a lot of flips, number one. And I don't love doing flips after fires because smoke damage is real, man. That it gets into everything. And, the structural integrity of a house because of a fire, it can be, it's like pulling on a thread. It's like the fire happened in one room, but, two rooms over, you have some structural damage because the flames licked up into the ceilings and some of the trusses up there have gotten a little weak or they're fire damage. Like it can be kind of extensive. And so I don't love doing it, but I would say you're going to have to pull out more drywall than you think because of smoke damage. The studs and some of the trusses and some of the floor joists and things like that could have been affected, and you almost have to pull up floorboards and rip out ceilings just to double check to make sure that you're not missing anything. But that's really it. I mean, just expect that you're going to have to gut more of the house than would be obvious by just walking through the house, unless the house is like half burned down, right? Then you're going to have a ton of problems. But that fire damage, man, that can really affect the integrity of a lot of stuff. So I don't know. I would say the pointers would be err on the side of ripping it out and replacing rather than painting over and assuming it's good. That's probably my biggest pointer. And my other pointer is if you wholesale at all, try wholesaling it because a lot of people love damage houses. And I'm not trying to talk you out of doing a fire damaged house. I'm just saying they could be a pain in the butt. And so, maybe avoid it if you don't have to do it. Um, but yeah, I would say just be prepared to rip out more than you think you're going to have to rip out. So, fire damage houses are interesting. Like I said, we've sold a lot of them, and there have been some where I wouldn't have wanted to do the flip for, anything. But some people absolutely love those kind of deals. And so if you love those kind of deals, you should definitely do them. But it's just not my favorite in the world, so I don't really do a lot of fire damage stuff. Okay. Next question. Let's see. Do you have to get special insurance for your flips? Yeah, you do. It's homeowners insurance for sure, but you need to get a vacant policy. And basically, it is what it sounds like. You're getting a homeowner's policy where the insurance company is giving you a rate based on the fact that it's unoccupied, right? While you're doing renovations. It's more expensive than insurance where someone's living there because things can happen when no one's in the house to kind of keep it protected or watch over it, right? Things can happen that get left unattended, and they can careen out of control. And so it's a little bit more expensive, but it's called a vacant policy. That's what you need to get for flips. But and then as far as like insurance, like company insurance, like liability insurance and things like that, like there's all kinds of insurance you can get if you really want to go crazy down the insurance hole. But when you're talking about the flips, I'm talking about the property itself. You need to get a vacant policy, and then if it's going to be like a short-term rental or a long-term rental, then you just convert that insurance policy from a vacant policy to an occupied policy or an occupant policy. And then the rates are going to change and all that. So that's a good thing. So you don't want to leave that go. If you flip a house into a long-term rental and it takes you 3 months to flip it and then you get it rented, don't leave that vacant policy in place because you're going to be spending money that you don't need to spend. But I would shop it around too. Like you didn't ask me, but just shop the insurance around. All insurance companies are not equal, and all of them don't view vacant policies and house flipping policies the same. And so I would just say do your homework and make sure you're getting multiple quotes from different companies. But yeah, it is different, and it's called a vacant policy. So that's what you need to do when you're working on a flip. Okay. Let's see here. We're kind of burning through these. Next question. Do you have a general contractor on staff? Work with different ones for different projects? Question mark. Two question marks there. We are struggling to find and keep good GC. Yeah, I don't have contractors on staff. I don't do enough renovations to keep contractors on staff. I'm primarily a wholesaler. we're starting to do quite a bit more where we are buying and then putting a note on that property and selling it and holding the note ourselves to homeowners. So we're not really renting; we're sort of like playing bank. In those cases, we're starting to do more renovations that way. But I'm still wouldn't consider my company a company that does a lot of renovations. We do some light renovation to the houses that we're gonna, create the note and sell them, and but not a lot. We're not doing heavy renovation. So no, I don't keep somebody on staff. I don't work with different ones for different projects, though. I do try to have one GC that or two, one or two that do all of my jobs, which are not a lot. And that way I have a rapport, we have some understanding. There's a lot of things that you have to iron out when you start working with a contractor, even really good ones. There's a lot of things that are not just intuitive to both sides, right? And so you have to sort of learn each other and go through some growing pains to understand each other. But I think you should try to work with the same GC each time if you can. It sounds like you're struggling to find one. Here's so there's a lot of ways you can find a GC, right? Here's one good strategy. If you've ever flipped a house or ever done renovations, maybe you didn't like your GC, but if you go to the renovation frequently, like you should be seeing other people working, electricians, plumbers, roofers, siding people, rough carpenters, flooring people, right? Find somebody in one of those other disciplines that you like a lot. Every time you go, they seem to be there. They seem to understand what's going on. They're on top of it. They're polite. They're professional. They do good work. And just pull them aside and say, hey, who else do you work with that you like? Any other GCs, any other roofers, any other plumbers, any electricians? Like, start building out a network of referrals from contractors that you actually do like and that are doing a good job. You don't just have to hire a GC and go from GC to GC and try to find a good one. That's one way to do it. I hire GCs too. I don't sub anything out myself, but if I was looking for a GC and struggling, I would try to, like, for example, I recently hired someone to come to my house to do some drywall work. And he did a great job. He showed up on time. Like I said, punctual, good work ethic, good attitude, friendly, outgoing, just everything was great, right? He seemed great. And I thought, okay, I hired this guy to do drywall, but I wonder if he does anything else. Like, is he just doing this for extra money? Does he do anything else? And so I had the conversation with him. Turns out he can do full renovations. He's got a crew. He can do full renovations. And so I found him by basically doing some drywall work. I liked his drywall work, so I started asking questions, found out he can do more. But he could have just as easily said, "Hey, I don't do full renovations, but I do work with a guy who's a great GC. He has a great crew. He does a great job. He's priced reasonably." Like, that could have been how the conversation went. It just so happens he's the guy who can do all that stuff, but he could have led me to something else. Point being, I didn't hire him to be a GC. I hired him to do drywall work. And I found a GC through the process, which happens to be him. But he, like I said, he could have pointed me in the direction of anybody. So I think finding someone who does do a good job, even if they're not a GC, and start working through their network. And then maybe that roofer knows a rough carpenter. And he's like, yeah, I don't know a lot of people, but I have a rough carpenter that I work with, and he's great. He does great work. Everyone loves him, blah, blah, blah. And he gives you his number. You talk to him, and that guy comes and does some work for you. He's great. And you go, do you know anybody? And he's like, yeah, I know an electrician and a plumber, and they're the best, and they're great, and they're good prices. And then you get a hold of those folks, and they go, oh, yeah, I know a GC that's great. Right. And it's like this network where you just sort of like spider web out and take advantage of other people's networks. That's a great way for finding contractors that are good and will do a good job for you. So that's one way to go about it. I mean, there's a lot of ways. You got to stick with it a little bit, but sometimes finding good contractors is tough. And it's one of the struggles of being a house flipper or someone who does a lot of renovations. I will say this: with the real estate market the way it's going, right? How home values kind of going down and there being this recession and things, there's a really, really good likelihood. It's almost certain that general contractors and people in the carpentry world, building world, are going to be losing opportunities, right? They're going to be losing jobs. They're going to be out of work. It's going to be harder for them to find work. And so I think finding good contractors that are willing to go and do the work and show up will get easier for us, guys. And honestly, not to go on a rant about the market and what's happening, I hear a lot of fear and uncertainty about the real estate market specifically, what we're the market that we're going into and the opportunities that will be there or not. And frankly, I'm shocked. I hear a lot of people who are scared that they're not going to be able to survive the real estate market that is coming. It's kind of here, but it's coming. And I just say to those people, where were you 5 or 6 years ago or 4 or 5 years ago? Where were you? We were in that market and people were thriving and it was great. And everyone was afraid to leave that market. And then we left it. And now people are afraid to kind of go back into a similar market. But I don't understand. We loved it when we were there. I think the opportunities are going to be greater. I think the profits are going to be greater. I think the availability of contractors is going to be better. I just think there's a lot of upside to what's about to happen in the real estate market and what is happening in a lot of markets right now already. So keep your chin up, guys. It's all good. We're going to survive this. In fact, we're going to thrive and we're probably going to look back and wonder what we were so afraid of. So that's my take on the market that's coming. And those are the questions for this week. Again, if you want to grab my direct mail course before I make it a paid course, go grab it while it's free. Even if you don't watch it right away, go grab it while it's free. And you can find it at winningdirectmail.com, or you can go to my website, mikesimmons.com/winning direct mail. Okay, guys.